Alright, Meat Shields, if there's one thing the Jurassic franchise has taught us over the years, it's that the best way to avoid being eaten by a dinosaur is to let them stay extinct. But these scientists never seem to learn their lesson, do they? And this time, they've lost control of an entire island full of genetically modified dinosaurs that were specifically created to be as dangerous as possible. Now, a small team of mercenaries has to track down 3 of the largest species and collect their blood for a miracle cure, but it won't be long before they end up fighting for their lives. So we're here to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the mutant dinosaurs in Jurassic World Rebirth. These lab geeks aren't the only ones who are about to have a major breakthrough. It's an ordinary day at a top-secret genetic research facility located somewhere off the coast of South America. For years, the bioengineering company InGen has been creating hybrid dinosaurs to entertain the guests at their dino-based theme parks. But as usual, that was their biggest mistake. The disaster starts when a scientist drops his candy wrapper as he's entering one of the holding cells. I mean, he doesn't even notice it drifting into the airlock behind him, but as they enter the second set of doors, the wrapper gets stuck in a small vent at the bottom, causing the chamber to get stuck open. This sets off a chain reaction that reboots the entire security system, and within a matter of seconds, all hell breaks loose as the horrifying genetic monstrosity starts to break free. The scientist winds up stuck inside the chamber as the place goes into lockdown, begging one of his colleagues to open the door, but the 25-foot-tall abomination, who they've named the D-Rex, is already standing right behind him, and there's absolutely nothing that she can do. Terrified, the man pleads for help as the beast grabs him with its claw and bites off his head, disappearing back into the fog as the others are forced to evacuate. Alright, well, I guess the doctor here didn't realize that his candy bar was about to be his last meal. Now let's get one thing out of the way first. This part of the story takes place in 2010, and anyone who was still working for InGen at that point was just asking for this to happen. I mean, let's see. The first Jurassic Park never even opened its doors because too many people got killed. Then 4 years later, these idiots brought a live T-Rex to the suburbs of San Diego. Then only 4 years after that, the damn dinosaurs escaped, and now everyone's just had to live with it ever since. Well, thanks a lot, science. But really though, clearly things haven't changed because the sign on the wall says that it's only been 9 days since the last injury. So like I said, this place should have been shut down and sued into oblivion decades ago. And anyone who'd willingly take a job there must have been either living under a rock or just plain old dumb. Which brings me to Dr. Candy Bar over here. Now, if this place was following the real-world guidelines recommended by the WHO and the CDC, he never would have been allowed anywhere near this lab with an open snack. Besides the safety risk, the company could end up losing out on millions of dollars worth of research if he accidentally contaminates even a single sample. So as soon as anyone saw what he was doing, they should have shut down the lab, fired him on the spot, and deep cleaned the entire place before getting back to work. But to be fair, the fact that a single candy wrapper was able to take down this entire facility just goes to show that they still haven't learned their lesson. Like, we're talking about a multi-billion-dollar business here, so there's no reason to cut corners when it comes to security. Now, if those vents are essential to the door closing, then they should have obviously had some kind of screen over the opening to prevent anything from getting inside. And they seriously need to stop linking every damn area together under one security system. Like, just split them up and then you won't have to abandon the entire island just because one door got jammed. It's simple stuff, people, but those who don't learn from their mistakes are doomed to repeat them, or something like that. And I guess that might as well be the franchise's motto at this point. The story picks up in present day, and although it's only been 32 years since the dinosaurs came back, people are already starting to lose interest. These days, seeing a dino on the streets of Brooklyn is nothing out of the ordinary, and that's where we find businessman Martin Krebs, who works for the pharmaceutical engineering company Parker Genix. As he gets back in his car, he's surprised to find our protagonist, Zora Bennett, already sitting in the back seat. She's an expert mercenary who's looking to recruit for another top-secret mission, but as he starts going over the details, she realizes that it might be more than she bargained for. You see, it's the kind of job where you might end up dead or in prison or worse, but he mentions that the pay is 10 million V-bucks, and she decides that she's willing to hear him out. They're after genetic samples from the 3 largest prehistoric species that could lead to a breakthrough cure for heart disease. But if Zora here here is the muscle, then they're going to need some brains. And that's where paleontologist Dr. Henry Loomis comes in, who's been helping the company with their research over the years. They need a true dinosaur expert on the team to make sure that everything goes right, and as crazy as it sounds, it's also the only chance he'll ever get to see the dinos in their natural habitat. So after thinking it over, he finally agrees to go. After a quick pit stop to recruit their boat captain, Zora's old friend Duncan Kincaid, they hit the high seas in search of their first target, the enormous marine reptile Mosasaurus. But nothing could ever prepare them for just how dangerous things are about to get. Alright, it looks like the gang here just signed up for the world's most dangerous fetch quest, but they're already making the same mistakes as everyone else who's come before them. Like, if I had a quarter for every time that Dr. Grant got suckered in with the old "a chance to see them in their natural habitat" line, then I'd have at least 2 quarters, and that's 2 times too many if you ask me. Henry here even studied under the guy at some point in his career, so you'd think that he would have learned that you're always better off leaving the dinosaurs as fossils, but it looks like he's about to fall for the same trap. But he's not the only one repeating the mistakes of the past. Krebs here is sending them on a dino hunt that's a lot like what Ludlow tried to pull in the Lost World. Except instead of sending an entire squad of heavily armed mercenaries, he's sending like 5 glorified babysitters and a paleontologist. So I think it's safe to say that they might be a little understaffed. Now, the reason why he's keeping the mission so low-key is because it's incredibly illegal, so he wants as few people to know about it as possible. I guess that makes sense in a criminal sort of way, but there's always room for improvement. You see, the first prehistoric reptile they're going after is the Mosasaurus, and if they aren't careful, it'll also be their last. I mean, this absolute unit was built like a cross between a crocodile and a whale. In real life, they grew up to about 50 feet long and can weigh anywhere from like 15 to 25 tons, but the ones that were created by InGen for the movie are even bigger. Not only that, scientists believe that it's possible that they had intelligence similar to modern orcas, making them one of the largest and most dangerous marine predators to ever exist. So needless to say, this thing could easily destroy their boat in a matter of seconds, but with all the money that they have, there's absolutely no reason why they should even need to get that close. Instead of trying to roll up on it live and in person, I feel like the logical thing to do is send in an underwater drone instead. For a fraction of the price, they're paying Zora here. InGen could purchase or build their own remote-controlled sub that fires and retrieves its own canister, letting them collect the blood while the crew is sitting miles away. The best part is, losing a drone is a lot better than losing a boat full of real people, because if anything goes wrong, they can always just build another one and try again. And since they'd be controlling it from far away, there's also less risk of getting caught by the authorities. But with the way that they're planning this so far, it looks like another catastrophe is just right around the corner. Meanwhile, somewhere about 50 miles south of their location, a family of tourists are peacefully crossing the Atlantic on their sailboat, having no idea that they're about to wind up on the menu. Their father, Ruben, asks his daughter's boyfriend, Xavier, to take over at the wheel, but the guy's a lazy freeloader who refuses to do anything useful. Frustrated, he tells the kid to go back to bed, but that's when Teresa spots a pair of giant sails just to the east. Suddenly, they're hit from below as something massive crashes into the side of the boat, but as Ruben tries to get the situation under control, the monster hits them again, sending the entire family tumbling into the water. The girls scramble to safety, but Xavier is still trapped inside, and it seems like there's nothing that they can do to get him out. Finally, he manages to kick the doors open, escaping just as the giant mosasaur starts circling them in. Reaching the surface, he makes a desperate swim for the boat with the monster closing in right behind him, but he makes it to safety just in time. Lucky for them, it leaves without coming back for another attack, and Xavier here even managed to save the radio, allowing them to put out a call for help. It's just after sunrise when Duncan's boat picks up their distress call, but the crew's divided on how they should respond. Some of them want to ignore it and stay focused on the mission, but Duncan refuses to put their profits over the family's lives. So he orders them to change course and head for the signal. It isn't long before they find the family's boat, and they're all relieved that someone's finally coming to save them, but they have no idea that the real danger is about to begin. Alright, so aside from sailing into dinosaur-infested waters, we can all agree that family vacations are pretty great, right? But you know what isn't great? Paying for all that gas. I mean, some places can charge an arm and a leg, and let me tell you, gas prices this summer were scarier than a T-Rex. But I didn't have to worry about that thanks to our friends at Upside. So using the Upside app, there's an easy way to get cash back every time you fill up your tank, grab a bite to eat, or stock up on essentials. Basically, the three things that we all need to spend more on in the summer. It is mad simple. You sign up, link your card and bank account, and then when you spend at participating partners, you get real cash back. Not points or tokens or whatever that stuff is. Real money back in your bank account. Some are even earning as much as $300 a month, spending what they would already spend on those essential household items. Like, come on. This has been a game changer for me all summer between running my kids around, taking Kilo to the dog park, and family vacations. Your boy has been spending. But thanks to Upside, I've also been saving. There are over 100,000 gas stations, grocery stores, and restaurants on the Upside app, ensuring that cash back is always just around the corner. You can earn up to 3% more cash back with Upside than any other rewards product. It's dope. So if you want to be like these top earners making as much as $300 a month, click the link in the description to download Upside. Use code HOWTOBEAT to get an extra 25 cents back for every gallon on your first tank of gas, or scan the QR code here to claim this offer. I hope you guys can check it out, and now back to the show. Alright, these four might think that their luck is finally turning around, but the truth is that they've just been rescued by a bunch of idiots with a death wish who are about to make things even worse. Now, first of all, it needs to be said that this entire disaster could have been avoided if they just hadn't been out there in the first place. Like Henry explained to the crew, the dinosaurs and other ancient creatures can only survive in a very particular band and around the equator, so as long as you don't go there, you should never have to worry about running into one. You see, the dinosaurs evolved to fit the Earth as it was millions of years ago, but today's Earth is very different. I mean, there's less oxygen in the atmosphere and lower temperatures around the globe, but near the equator, there's oxygen-rich air and warmer weather like all year around, making it the most similar thing to their old environment that would exist in modern times. Now, knowing this, we can assume that most dinos would stick within a range of roughly 1,200 miles north or south of the equator, so if you can stay north off the Caribbean or south of Peru, you'll have basically no chance of running into them at all. And that's why Ruben here is a total idiot, because he decided to take two teenagers and a literal child on an open ocean voyage from Barbados to Cape Town. Like, not only is that insane in and of itself, since you're talking about cutting across 6,000 miles of open ocean where literally anything can happen, but he also took them straight into the heart of dinosaur territory, where all they had to do was not go there and then they would have been perfectly fine. Like, once the trouble started, my man wasted a lot of time just checking the hull to confirm what everyone already knew. As soon as he realized that they might be going down, he should have made everyone get above deck and put on their life jackets, activated their emergency radio beacon and started broadcasting a distress signal, grabbed any emergency supplies that they would need, and then got ready to launch the life raft in case they started to sink. This way, they would have been prepared for any scenario, helping them react more quickly once the monster came back to flip the boat. They're just lucky that Xavier managed to grab the radio, but if they think that their troubles are over, they're in for a big surprise. After almost getting turned into reptile food, the family seems eager to get back home, but that's when Zora's crew picks up the mosasaur on their trackers, and this time it's headed straight for them. Suddenly, the entire boat shakes as the enormous creature slams them from below. Grabbing her rifle, Zora rushes to the front deck and takes aim, but the monster dives below the surface and leaps out of the water, causing her to miss the shot. Henry runs to grab another dart as the reptile comes back for another pass, catching Zora just as she's knocked over the railing. This time she puts the dart straight into its back, and once the sample is collected, Henry grabs the canister as it parachutes down the boat. Just when it seems like they're in the clear, Teresa notices the same sails from earlier coming back towards the boat. It's a group of Spinosaurs, and as Henry watches them circle around, he realizes that the two species are working together. Grabbing a bolt gun, this mercenary Bobby starts firing huge darts tipped with a deadly neurotoxin at any dino that gets too close. But while he's distracted, one of the Spinos leaps out of the water and snatches him in its jaws. They're not going to survive another hit, so with no other choice, Duncan aims straight for the rocks and punches the throttle, hoping to lose the creature in the shallow water. Teresa runs to the radio to call for help, but Krebs stops her before she can finish, knowing that they'll be in big trouble if anyone finds out what they're up to. Just then, the girl stumbles backwards and trips over the broken guardrail, but instead of trying to save her, Krebs decides to let her fall. Seeing this, Xavier Xavier immediately grabs a rescue buoy and dives in after her, followed by Ruben and Isabella, who escape just as the mosasaur starts pushing them into the rocks. Eventually, they have no other choice but to do the same, diving in just as Duncan hits the beach going at full speed. But Henry shouts that they need to keep going, warning them that the Spinos can walk on dry land. As they're rushing to get ashore, this mercenary Nina starts trying to pull some heavy gear onto the beach, but the moment that she turns her back, one of the Spinos comes and drags her away. Losing the boat wasn't really part of the plan, but Zora insists that they need to keep going, convinced that they still can get what they came for. As they're making their way into the jungle, she explains that she hired a backup team that should be sending a chopper in about 24 hours, but they'll need to make it to the rendezvous point before the chopper shows up, because they'll only have 2 minutes before the pilots leave them behind. Alright, well, I mean, that went as bad as humanly possible. At least they were able to get the sample, but they're already down to 2 people and still have 2 more targets to go. Now, Bobby here at least made an attempt to fight off the Spinos, but the problem was that he already had a terrible aim, so all he really did was waste a bunch of ammo. I hate to see a good meat shield go to waste, but with a few small upgrades to his weapon, he would have stood a much better chance. Bobby here was using some sort of bolt gun that fired darts tipped with a lethal neurotoxin, and that's actually pretty smart when you consider what he's going up against. Conventional weapons might not punch through the animal's thick skin, but a heavy dart gives him the mass to hit deep, and the poison causes paralysis within seconds no matter where it enters the bloodstream. But even the best weapon in the world can't help you if you can't land a single shot, so next time I'd suggest adding a shoulder stock for better recoil control, a scope or laser to help him aim. At least Zora already set them up with a ride out of there, so that's a good start, but in case of an emergency landing, they should have made sure that everyone had their own personal kit with supplies for like about 2 days. And that kit would include water filters, high-calorie snack bars, first aid kit, a physical map of the island and a compass, a high-powered rifle, shotgun or handgun depending on that person's skills, you know, shit like that. Now, they've all decided to stick to the plan since they've already come this far, but personally I'd say it's time to switch gears and focus on survival. I mean, going home alive with 1 sample is a lot better than pushing it until everyone ends up dead, so I would head straight for the helipad while they still have a chance because they can always come back to get the other 2 samples another time. Meanwhile, somewhere nearby, Ruben and his family find an industrial pipe built into the cliffs, deciding to follow it back to the InGen facility. As for the others, they start making their way towards the center of the island, where they're hoping to find their next target, the colossal herbivore, Titanosaurus. Before heading out, Ruben tells his family to find some walking sticks, and that's when Isabella makes a strange new friend. A tiny little dinosaur jumps out to say hello, but her sister immediately chases it away, thinking that it's probably too dangerous. Zora's group is still making their way upriver when the businessman stops for a drink. Looking down, he notices a pair of dog tags in the creek and turns around to see a military helicopter crashed into the trees. The pilot didn't make it, but it looks like his Glock did, so Krebs here uses a branch to get his hands on the pistol without telling any of the others. It's getting late, so Ruben and his family decide to set up camp. Xavier comes back from gathering firewood and offers to stay on watch, surprising the old man with his newfound sense of responsibility. Even though Ruben tries to thank him, the kid admits that he's not always proud of who he is, but the man tells him not to think that way, because if you don't believe in yourself, then nobody else will either. As her family lies there sleeping, Isabella's woken up by a strange sound coming from the bushes. It's the same little dinosaur from before, and she calls it over by throwing it some candy, convincing it to stay with them instead. As for Xavier, he wanders off to go take a leak somewhere on the edge of camp, but while he's distracted, a pair of raptors starts sneaking up right behind him. He's got absolutely no idea that he's in danger until just when it's about to strike, a flying hybrid crashes down from above and pins the raptor to the ground, brutally ripping off its throat before carrying it off. Sometime the next morning, Zora and her group finally arrive at the valley where the Titanosaur herd is supposed to live. Strangely, there's no sign of the dinosaurs anywhere, but the crew can hear deep noises coming from all around them, which is when a huge snake-like tail rises out of the bush and they all watch in amazement as 2 of the biggest dinosaurs they've ever seen suddenly appear out of the grass. As the 2 of them rush closer to take the shot, Henry notices that they're about to get the perfect opportunity. Confused, Zora asks what he means, but when she looks up, she realizes that the mommy and daddy dinosaurs are hugging with their giant necks. While they're distracted, Henry gets close enough to touch one of their legs, crying tears of joy as he gets to experience something something that he never could have imagined in his wildest dreams. Even Zora starts to get a little emotional, but she takes the shot and sticks the dart perfectly into the dinosaur's neck, securing the second sample as the herd peacefully leaves to explore the valley. And off in the distance, they spot their third target circling above the cliffs. It's the massive flying reptile Quetzalcoatlus, but if they're going to get close, then it looks like they're going to have to find a way up. Alright, it seems like everyone's making some good progress here, but they've also put themselves in a few risky situations. So now feels like a good time to assess their strategy. So Ruben and his family came up with a good idea by deciding to follow the pipes towards the old facility, but Xavier here has already had to use his plot armor twice in the last 24 hours, so it seems like we need to lay down some ground rules. Like rule number 1. No more wandering off from the group, guy. Many dinosaurs, like raptors and whatever the hell that thing was, are ambush predators, so going off alone makes you an easy target. From now on, they need to stick with another meat shield at like all times, and if they do go anywhere, they need to tell somebody first, bring a buddy, and get back to the others in no more than 2 minutes. First up, camouflage, one of the most useful survival adaptations in the natural world. Us humans obviously aren't born with it, but we can make use out of pretty much anything, so I'd cover up their bodies in mud or crushed up plants, and even make a poncho out of leaves and vines to break up their outline. But camo isn't just about what you see, it's also about what you smell. The mud and crushed up plants should help cover up their human scent, and if they're going to use the restroom, then they should do it downwind and away from camp. Now, when it comes to weapons, their options are honestly pretty limited, but my gut instinct would be to do what Ruben did and pick up a stick. During any downtime, I'd work on sharpening it into a spear for some extra stabbing potential. And as for their movement strategy, I'd suggest staying in a tight formation with Isabella at the center. They're gonna want to avoid talking unless absolutely necessary and use hand signals whenever they can. I'd also suggest sticking to the dense trees and elevated ground like whenever possible, and avoiding open fields with tall grass at all costs. Sticking to the forest allows them to climb a tree if any land-based predators come after them, or take cover if they're attacked by one of the flying ones. It's not gonna be easy, but if they're careful, then they might actually stand a chance to make it out of this facility alive. Meanwhile, somewhere else on the island, Ruben and his family are still making their way downriver. Teresa's a little worried about her sister's new friend, but her father can tell that it's helping the girl feel better, and the kid announces that she's decided to name her Dolores. All of a sudden, the ground gives out right under their feet, sending them all tumbling down to the bottom of the cliff. Luckily, they all land safely at the bottom, but their father already had a twisted ankle, and the fall just made it a lot worse. That's when they notice a rancid smell coming from somewhere nearby, and Dolores immediately runs into the bushes as if she's afraid of something. Looking across the river, Teresa spots an old boat, and realizing that it would help them travel faster, she decides to go get it while the others wait behind. She gets to the dock without any trouble, but when she looks to her right, she sees the half-eaten body of a plant eater rotting in the sun, and turning around, she's horrified to see an adult T-Rex taking a nap just a few feet away. Her family tries telling her to come back, but after coming this far, she's determined to get to the boat before they leave. The problem is, the boat is completely destroyed, but that's when she spots an inflatable raft hidden at the back of the shed. Dragging the heavy bag along the dock, she pulls on the handle and loudly inflates the raft, but by the time she pushes it into the water, the T-Rex is already gone. It looks like all the noise must have woken it up, and just as the family starts paddling downstream, the T-Rex notices the raft and starts chasing after them. Terrified, they all start paddling for their lives as the dinosaur wades into the river and dives below the surface, swimming after them like an alligator until it's able to cut them off. There's nothing they can do as the monster rears up and flips the entire raft with its snout. Ruben tries to help his kids, but they're pulled away by the rapids before he can reach them. And as he's carried downriver by the current, his only choice is to dive underwater as deep as he can, narrowly avoiding being eaten as the monster snaps down at him from the surface. Luckily, he's able to get past it without being caught, and they end up passing through a small opening in the rocks where the T-Rex can't reach them. That's when he realizes that Isabella is still out there, and looking back, they see that she's trapped underneath the raft. The T-Rex figures this out and turns its attention to the girl instead, pushing down on the raft with its teeth as it tries to reach her. Frustrated, it grabs the entire raft in its jaws, but Bella manages to get out at the last minute, reaching the gap in the rocks just in time. It's a pretty damn close call, and they're all lucky to be alive, but that's when the raft pops up from beneath the surface, so it looks like the plan was a success after all. Okay, alright, so like, why bother making smart decisions when you could just rely on good old plot armor to get you through it, am I right? I mean, at least they got the raft, so it looks like the plan worked out in the long run, but that might actually been one of the dumbest things that I've ever seen. Yeah, like, starting with the obvious, they broke rule number 1 in a major way by sending Teresa across the river on her own. I mean, these idiots had absolutely no idea what might be over there, no way to help her out if anything happened, and on top of that, it left them all distracted while they were focused on her, so at any point, a predator could sneak up and turn this into a massacre. Now, we've already said why it's always better to stay with the group and have someone to keep lookout at all times, which brings us to their newest addition, Isabella's little friend Dolores. Now, Dolores here is a small species of plant eater, so while she may not work great as a bodyguard, she's definitely useful when it comes to keeping an eye out for threats. As a prey species, her eyesight, hearing, and sense of smell are all specifically adapted for detecting danger that the humans might never see coming, and that's exactly what ended up happening here. And if they'd been paying more attention to her behaviors, they would have realized that she was trying to warn them that a predator was nearby. But even without Dolores sounding the alarm, a quick look around would have told them that everything was very wrong. Anywhere there is wildlife, riverbanks are usually full of activity, so when they noticed that there was no signs of life, that should have been the moment that they realized that they were in trouble. Now, the only other thing around was the body of that large plant eater, and Teresa might not have known this, but that species is one of T-Rex's favorite meals. As an apex predator, the Rex was going to be even more territorial and aggressive around a recent kill, so that moment is when she needed to turn around and get back to the others before it accidentally woke up. Also, they needed the raft to help them get downstream, but waiting for the T-Rex to leave would have been way too risky. Although it wasn't ideal, the safest thing would have been to retreat back into the dense forest and start heading downriver on foot until they're far away from the T-Rex nest. Then, once they had some distance, they could explore the possibility of building their own raft using logs and vines. But like I said, who needs good ideas when the plot keeps you alive? Back with the others, Zora and her team reach the edge of the cliff, where they'll have to rappel down to reach their next target. Meanwhile, up above, Duncan notices a tiny dinosaur disappearing into a hole in the ground and is surprised to find a set of ancient stone steps leading down into a hidden cave. Nervous, Henry makes a mistake and starts falling to his death, but the others grab the rope and catch him just in time. They've almost reached the nest, but that's when they hear the Pterosaurus coming back, and Zora warns him that they need to hurry up. And Henry finds a nest full of giant eggs tucked at the back of the chamber. Using one of the darts, he's able to get what he needs without hurting the embryo. Zora asks what he would do with the samples if they didn't have to give them to the company. He explains that he would leak the research to everyone in the world, that way Parkergenics wouldn't have a monopoly on the cure. Outside, Leclerc is busy installing some pittons when he feels something massive pass behind him, and turning around, he's horrified to see the enormous predator returning to its nest. Just then, the others see the giant creature rushing towards them, and they're forced to take cover as it starts snapping at them with its razor-sharp beak. Zora tries to distract it, but there's no way that Henry can reach the sample until Leclerc flings a hammer through the opening and it hits the monster straight in the head. Now furious, the creature turns around to go after him instead, and terrified, he starts shouting at the others to pull him up. As soon as he gets the chance, Henry dives in and grabs the dart. His foot ends up caught in the rope, sending him and the sample falling straight over the edge. Zora manages to save him just in time, and the sample ends up falling onto a ledge just a few feet away. The rope could snap at any second. He starts swinging over and trying to grab the container before it falls. As for the others, they keep pulling Leclerc up as fast as they can. The Pterosaurus rises over the edge with his body caught in its beak, swallowing him whole while his friends can't do anything but watch, and their only choice is to take cover inside the cave. Henry finally reaches the container, but the rope snaps just as the stone that he's holding onto suddenly comes loose. Luckily, the huge leaves manage to break his fall, and he crashes straight into a stream as the others rush down to check on him, with the final sample landing peacefully on a riverbank just a few feet away. Alrighty then, well, I guess Big Bird didn't appreciate these mercenaries poking around in its nest. Now, it is a good thing they still had one of their NPCs around to use as a meat shield. Otherwise, one of the important characters might have gotten killed instead. I would hate to see them come this far, just to end up losing the doctor and the last sample. But with just a few small adjustments, this plan could have been a lot safer. Now, first of all, as they approached the cliff, Zora mentioned that it looked like a 513 or a 515. What she's talking about is the Yosemite Decibel System, which is a system for ranking climbs according to their difficulty. Anything above a 513 is considered for experienced professionals only, so maybe instead of making fun of the doctor because he's not a badass or whatever, they could have quickly given him some tips to help him, climb safely. The first thing that he would want to know is that you always keep your feet shoulder width apart, with your back straight and your knees slightly bent, kind of like you're sitting in a chair. For beginners, you want to walk down the wall, not bounce, otherwise you'll pick up too much speed. Your right hand is supposed to be your brake hand, so you want to keep it below your body at all times. And to descend, you let the rope slide slowly through your hand, and if you need to stop, you pull on the rope and lock your arm to the side. The key is to keep a slow and steady pace, and always stay focused on your feet, because if you get distracted, you could end up accidentally letting go of the line like he did, and that almost cost him his life. The climb down wasn't even the most dangerous part of the plan. That would have been the 10-foot-tall flying mer lizard that they were trying to steal an egg from. Around a nest with unhatched eggs, they're going to be extremely territorial and aggressive, so you need to get in and out as fast as possible. Yeah, so like with all that being said, instead of treating this like a sightseeing tour, everybody should have stayed completely silent, collected the sample, and then immediately gotten the out of there. And as for their friends up above, they should have already been ready to sound the alarm as soon as the creature came back. Krebs still had the Glock, but that wouldn't do much against something this big, so what they could have done was started to hurl heavy rocks over the edge of the cliff to let gravity do the work instead. Boy, it would take one lucky shot, but a direct hit might knock the creature right out of the sky, giving them a low-tech way of fighting back with anything that they could find. It's just before sunset on the second day when the two groups find each other at the old facility, but as soon as they're all back together, Teresa starts shouting that Krebs tried to get her killed. Shocked, the others turn around to confront him, but that's when he pulls out the Glock and tells them all to stay back, forcing Zora to hand over the briefcase as he cuffs it to his wrist. Just then, the entire facility lights up as the generator automatically comes on, and suddenly a pair of Mutadons swoop down from above and land right in the middle of the group. Panicking, their only choice is to split up and run for their lives, with Ruben and his family escaping into the nearby shop. Zora and Krebs are forced to hide under a parked Jeep as the hybrid turns to come after them next. The man opens fire with his pistol, but he misses every shot, and frustrated Zora shouts at him to hand over the blicky. Now the monster grabs the briefcase and drags him away, but it drops him back to the ground as it suddenly gets distracted by the family. Meanwhile, inside the gas station, Teresa notices the hybrid pushing its way through the ceiling. Terrified, Isabella rushes to hide inside one of the freezers, but luckily Ruben's able to distract it long enough for her to get away. That's when they spot a storm drain built into the floor, and they're able to escape down into the tunnels just as the Mutadon is about to find them. As for Henry and Duncan, they find a map inside the old lab that shows tunnels leading to a boathouse on the island's coast. That's when they hear the rescue chopper approaching the helipad, so Duncan splits up to go find the others while Henry flags them down. Outside, Krebs realizes that the keys are still in the truck and immediately jumps into the driver's seat as he takes off into the jungle. This leaves Zora cornered by one of the Mutadons, but as it's searching around, it hears the family and decides to go after them instead. Reaching the helipad, Henry fires off a flare and gets the pilot's attention. For a moment it looks like they're saved, but just as they're about to land, the D-Rex grabs the chopper out of the sky and slams it to the ground. He ends up finding Duncan and the others as they all regroup down in the tunnels, and needing a new plan, they decide to go for the boat instead. They haven't made it far before Zora catches up with them, and opening fire, she manages to kill the Mutadon just in time. The group reaches the end of the tunnels, where they can see the boat just on the other side of the gate. Only Isabella is small enough to squeeze through, but before they can get to her, the D-Rex returns and cuts them off. Just then, they notice headlights coming from the distance as Krebs speeds down to the dock, but the D-Rex presses down on his Jeep and stops the man dead in his tracks. Realizing that it's distracted, the others take their chance to run for the boat, watching in horror as the monster lifts Krebs into the air and chomps off his head, making 4 down with 7 more to go. Alright, well, it looks like Krebs here just met the only thing scarier than the dinosaurs, and that would be the consequences of his own actions. The problem was, he forgot that the most important rule of the Jurassic Park franchise, plot armor only applies to the good guys. Well, since this whole expedition was his idea, I guess there's only one thing left to say. Krebs, my boy, it looks like you just f***ed up. Like, you're aware that the entire plan was incredibly flawed from the start, right? Maybe? I don't know. I mean, if you know what you're doing is so illegal that you have to keep it completely off the books, then how the hell are you going to explain your miracle cure when it hits the market? Ever think about that one, guy? It's gotta be hard to keep your evil plan a secret when the final steps involves selling the results to the entire world for maximum profit, right? But maybe I just don't get it. I guess a shady businessman's gonna do what a shady businessman's gonna do. But maybe you should have taken a second to see how this turned out for the other guys who tried the exact same thing. I mean, we've got Nedry, Ludlow, Hoskins, Weedy, even the OG himself, John Hammond, at least, got off the island alive. The list goes on, and what they all had in common is that they all thought that they could outsmart the dinosaurs, but like Dr. Malcolm always says,
I'm simply saying that life, finds a way.
Well, I guess now you'll be the one finding a way out of the wrong end of a D-Rex, and that's how you know that you just f***ed up. In the middle of the chaos, Zora manages to grab the briefcase as she follows the others down to the dock, but it seems like the chain to lower the boat is jammed, and the noise ends up calling the D-Rex straight to their location. Realizing that it's attracted to light, Duncan sets off a flare and starts leading the creature away, diving into the water so that his friends can escape. Thanks to his distraction, the others are able to get on the boat, starting it up and speeding out there with only seconds to spare. Unfortunately, it looks like their buddy Duncan didn't make it, but just as they're starting to give up hope, they see another flare launch up from the trees, revealing that he somehow survived after all. After turning around to pick him up, the survivors sail away into the sunset as a pod of dolphins comes to escort the boat. The adventure leaves Zora with a whole new perspective on life, and after talking it over with Henry, they decide that they're going to share their research with the entire world instead of exploiting it for profit. In the end, that makes 3 samples collected with 4 victims down and 7 lucky survivors, and it looks like everyone learned a valuable lesson. Next time, they should just ask for $50 million instead. Wow, Jurassic Park Rebirth, a movie almost as silly as the wig that I'm currently wearing. By the way, you gotta let me know down in the comments what you guys think of the wig. Like, on one hand, I get that the script, the movie, the plot wasn't exactly the, biggest brain movie of all time, but on the other hand, they actually made dinosaurs real and scary again, and the CGI looked pretty good, so I don't know. At this point, I just don't know what I want out of my Jurassic Park movies anymore. But maybe they can figure it out with the next one, how to make some elevated horror. Yeah, that's what we need. Some Dino Crisis, Resident Evil, Jurassic Park mashup kind of. Leave a like and subscribe, and check out that How to Beat playlist for more videos just like this one. I'm the guy. We'll see you in the next video, and have a damn good day.